sorry, now I'm the one who's messed up my laptop. We're going to open our meeting with a approval of the minutes from the July 14th, 2020 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, Ginny makes the motion.
I second.
Okay, Lynn seconds. Is there a discussion on those minutes?
Great job,
Okay.
Amy.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? Abstain? Larry, did I miss your vote?
No.
Okay, next is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Okay, Bill moves to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, is there a discussion on tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of tonight's agenda? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oppose? Abstain? All right. Bog, I'm trying to unmute you. Are you getting a message asking you to unmute? I saw you raising your hand there, but we couldn't hear you.
I asked him also, Jonathan,
Yes.
for resident speak out, if they're not showing their picture, how do we know if they want to speak if they're muted already?
The blue hand
But
in
will we
Zoom.
see that if they have no video?
I can see it. I can see it in the participant list.
Okay, well, we should let everyone know again.
Hey, Jonathan, I'll call the Bog, okay?
Okay. Just give us 1 second here while we try to get Bog unmuted and into the meeting. I think the way it works is the way Zoom is set up now, if I click unmute, he has to accept the request to unmute, right?
Yeah, I clicked on it also.
Okay.
I did it again.
It looked like he was saying something, but he's still muted.
Okay, I got a hold of him. He's going to unmute. Maybe.
But then you unmuted the whole entire meeting, so then you now have to mute everyone to hear him.
No, I didn't mean to.
No, everyone else still looks muted.
Except for
No.
Cassandra's not. Yeah, but to us, you look muted. That's just very weird tonight.
Alex isn't muted on mine.
Yeah, I mute him. But
It's on mine.
Cassandra, on our computer and in our little guide with participants, your mute icon is on. So
Now it's off.
Zoom is being really weird tonight. So just blame it on
COVID. Everything
Hacker.
else. You're the lucky winner tonight. You get to be unmuted, but we think you're muted.
There we go. Bog, can you say something now?
Yeah, okay, now I unmuted.
Okay, there we go. All right. Now we
Sorry
have Bog.
about this.
Okay, all right, we're gonna move on through the agenda. So for resident remarks, any resident wishing to make remarks gets up to 3 minutes. If you are on screen or if you can turn on your camera to raise your hand if you'd like to make remarks, please do so. If you don't have video capability, please use the hand-raising feature in Skype to raise your hand, and I'll be able to see that on my screen, and then I'll try to call in the order that I see you. So, okay, Alex, was that your hand? Okay, it looks like we have Alex for remarks. Is there anyone else? I don't think I see anyone. Okay.
I just want to ask someone because she was having a problem with her computer. Can I, Jonathan?
I'm not following you.
Well, I hope that everyone knows how to do the, that's okay. Never mind. Don't follow me.
Earlier, Sheila and John, I can't see
Right.
the name, but it says Sheila and John. She gave a thumbs up earlier. I don't know if that was just thumbing up what you were saying or
Oh, okay.
at the same
Thanks.
time that you said raise your hand.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, so far I better write this down. Just so I don't miss anyone. So far, I know I have Alex. Just one more time. Is there anyone else? Give a wave on the screen or the blue hand raise in Zoom or the thumbs up in Zoom. Just some indicator, however you know to. Okay, I see Jill Crane, so you'll follow Alex. Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, Alex, go ahead.
Thank you. I know you have an item on your agenda regarding the Symphony of Lights. I assume that's still on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it hasn't been changed.
Okay. Just a few comments. Do I have an opportunity to speak during that item as well or not?
No, we're doing resident speak out during speak out.
Okay. Do you recognize people during the item or not?
With Zoom, a lot of it depends on our ability to unmute and catch people. I would say what you have to say during speak out.
Okay. So with regard to that agenda item, as you may be aware, the Symphony of Lights has traditionally operated on the undeveloped Howard Hughes property. And prior to that, the Rouse Company property, adjacent to CA's Symphony Woods. But now that Howard Hughes has pretty bulldozed the area and built it up, they didn't leave any land for Symphony of Lights. So they've been apparently already been violating easement agreements that they have with CA by running cars through Symphony Woods. And as you know, Symphony Woods is a very fragile, environmentally fragile area. So CA felt, and I support what CA is trying to do here, is to prevent Howard Hughes from damaging Symphony Woods, because running cars through Symphony Woods for the Symphony of Lights would do a lot of damage to not only the grass, but the root system of the trees in the area through compaction of the roots and the soil surrounding them. So I'm not sure if Ginny is requesting support of the village board on this, but if she is, then I would also ask the village board to protect Symphony Woods by not allowing cars to go through with a Symphony of Lights through Symphony Woods. I don't think there's a problem necessarily with walking through Symphony Woods, but I think the problem is the vehicles traversing through the woods. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay, Jill, go ahead. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, Jill Crane. And I ditto on everything Alex said. Symphony of Woods, since I moved to Maryland over 30 years ago, Symphony of Woods has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller with development. I certainly appreciate the value of development for, Columbia's long-term, financial benefit, but I really think it is protecting the Symphony Woods that we still have left is more important than accommodating Howard Hughes development by letting Symphony of Lights get shoved into the remaining woods. So I'm ditto on what Alex said and what Ginny's has raised.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I just want to make sure there were no other resident remarks before I move on. Again, turn on your camera and raise a hand, or give me the blue raised hand in Skype if you don't have video. All right, I think we got everyone. Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we're going to move on to new business now. And our first item of new business scheduled for 5 minutes is a fiscal 21 revised OMCA budget discussion. And Sandy, were you going to kick us off on that?
Sure. I sent everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Today, CA starts their budget for FY22, and normally it's, well, it is a 2-year budget. This is the second year, but due to the COVID and the financial situation that CA is in, they're still going through with the timeline and the budget.
Sandy, hang on a second. So we have 2 new business items. The second one is the fiscal 22 CA budget. You also have here our fiscal budget for OMCA.
Okay, I wasn't looking at the agenda. So for OMCA, there's not anything to present tonight other than letting you know for the upcoming meeting, or the first or second meeting in August. When we passed our budget at the end of April, according to the CA timeline, with all the numbers that we had for our assessment share, that was our operating budget for fiscal year 21. However, shortly thereafter, with the COVID pandemic and CA's financial crisis and Oakland Mills financial crisis, we will have to revise our FY21 budget. And what I'm doing is I'm putting it together based on the new assessment share numbers that CA has given us, and based on our assumptions of what the remaining 9 months will be of the year, because we're at the end of July this week, we will end our first quarter. So what I'm planning on doing is having the accountant go through our first quarter financials and then see how we're doing, because I think that each remaining quarter of the year will pretty much mirror what happened the first quarter to us. Plus, we might even lose some more money from CA and put together a new operating budget for the remainder of the fiscal year. So I do want to wait until we finish out the first quarter, so we have 1 whole quarter of figures, and then do the new budget, which will replace the old one for the entire year. So I just wanted to float that by you tonight, so that when we get the figures from the accountant, I can come back to you for a final budget to vote on. And in the meantime, I'll be sending you drafts.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, since we're talking about the budget for this year, I think we've got to start thinking outside the box. And the box that we're constantly in is CA sharing their assessment, whatever we can get from weddings. I think there's a source of funds that we need to start tapping, and that is for OMCA to start charging for certificates of compliance. We are paying people to do these, and it's not unusual for HOAs to charge for certificates of compliance. I know it's done by other HOAs, and I'm proposing that we do start doing that. What the amount might be, we can discuss. I would propose right off the bat. I mean, these are basically fees that people pay as a matter of course when they go to closing on real estate transactions. And I'm proposing that for OMCA, we start looking at charging $100 per certificate of compliance. And that will also, if people really start looking at their charges, that they'll understand that they're in an HOA, which has also been an issue. You know, people have come before us and said, well, we didn't know we were in an HOA. We didn't know that there wasn't a certificate of compliance. So I think it's a way of raising our stature within the real estate transaction. My opinion.
I'll just say one thing, because I've heard that before, and I'm not that other villages don't, no other village does, but one of my concerns is that this is not a requirement to have that letter of compliance. It is that you must disclose what's not compliant at closing, and I would hope that it wouldn't make people just not get the letter and work around it. That's my only concern with charging the $100. But I just wanted to throw that out there for discussion.
Do any other villages do that?
No, because I've asked them a few times this year, actually. And that's what everyone came back and said, that they think that people might start not asking. And currently, there's an uptick in people asking from realtors, especially, that normally would bypass us. So that's the good part, is that people are really paying attention and working with us. If we charge them, we might lose a few, and some of the realtors will know how to work around it because they've done it before. Right now, they're all being really cooperative.
In my previous HOA, it was required, and it was steep. We had to get a letter of compliance. It was like maybe $275 or something. It was enough to make me say, whoa, that's crazy. But I agree with you, Paul. And maybe we, in order to fix that workaround issue, what if we just, I know we don't go and inspect properties unless there's a complaint, but what if we try to inspect properties that go on the market? I don't know if that's crazy.
We don't have the manpower. And also, it's not up to us to do. And I don't think, county law and state law. I'm going to let Lynn talk because she has her hand.
Yeah, Lynn has a hand up.
Yeah, I think that's not legal according to the covenants that everyone signed when they bought their property. So at this point, it would be going back and changing and making letters of compliance compulsory, to mandate them and put in that there would be a fee for them, because the way the whole thing has been set up is that we're a complaint-based system, and that people can ask for the letter of compliance, that people are required to disclose if something is not in compliance. But there's, I think to Sandy's point, that right now we're getting a lot of cooperation from realtors and also from sellers, from the property owners who are looking to sell their properties, if they want to be compliant, because it gives them it gives them a plus among all the houses on the market that theirs is in compliance and has a letter of compliance. But if we start charging for it, especially if the other villages are not, I think it would put us at a disadvantage. And also, I don't think we can do it. I don't think legally we can do it.
Paul?
Yeah, I would like to see within our covenants why we can't do it. I'm not aware of any restriction. If you can show me that, Lynn, I would be more than happy to take a look at it.
Okay.
It's just because the other villages aren't doing it doesn't mean that we can't. Like there is in our covenants, in our bylaws, we can actually charge an assessment fee just like CA does. But we don't do it. We've chosen not to do that. So I would be interested in knowing where that language is.
Okay.
Now, I believe that state statute does require, if you're in an HOA, that you be compliant with those covenants when you sell your property.
Yeah, that's why you have to disclose it, but you don't have to hand that letter from us.
Lynn, as a quick clarification, are you saying that you believe the covenants prohibit us from making it compulsory, or the covenants prohibit us from charging for it?
I'm both, actually.
Okay.
Because we're complaint based. We don't go out and inspect properties. So aside from somebody asking for a letter of compliance, they're asking to have their property inspected prior to sale. We don't go out and inspect all properties that are on the market and determine ourselves whether they get a letter of compliance or not. It's something that the homeowner asks for, the realtor asks for, or in many cases, the potential.
No, actually, we will not do it unless it's signed off by the property owner or giving their realtor their authority, because
Right.
we don't do it for someone buying. We
No,
do
no,
it-
I know that we don't do it because some realtor asks for it, but it's generally something that a prospective buyer will say to the realtor, you know, I'm not really going to buy it unless there's a letter of compliance, and then it goes to the property owner.
So
Right.
in the condos where I lived in Alexandria, where the letter of compliance, I actually just looked up the rules. It was not compulsory, but my realtor said, do not buy here unless you get that letter of compliance. Because if you buy a property and then it's not in compliance. So I think charging a fee, if they don't get the letter of compliance, then we're not doing any extra work. And if they do pay the fee to get the letter of compliance, which buyers should be requesting,
I agree.
and we're getting paid for that work we're doing for them to help sell their house.
Yes, I think it would be a good idea to explore, look at legally is it possible, and if it isn't right now, what would it take to make it so? And then what are the pros and cons of doing it? Because it won't hurt us to explore it at all.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I certainly think it's worth exploring. My initial reaction at the beginning of this, when there was a lot of pressure to get the letters going again, was, well, it sounds like there's a market for these, and we're saying we can't get them started because we don't have the funds to do it. So maybe the math works out. But I think Sandy and Lynn make good points. I don't know, how strong that market is, or if it goes away once we start charging for them, or whether we can legally do it. So I think it's worth looking into. Lynn, can you take that as an architecture action?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, Sandy, now we have the fiscal 22 CA budget.
Okay.
Did you want me to bring that document up on the screen?
It's just the letter that I sent everyone today. If you want to.
I can. Is it the proposed schedule you want to bring up, or the letter from Kristen?
The input, yeah.
Okay, I've got it. I've got it right here. Go ahead, start talking while I bring it up.
Okay, so this year they basically, even though they passed a conditional FY21 and FY22 budget, this year, because of the fiscal realities that CA is faced with, they are asking input from the villages and everyone, partners in September, and they're really looking at redoing fiscal 22 based on the financial uncertainties that CA faces. So we need to keep that in mind when we ask for Capital One, which are major quality of life improvements that are extremely expensive, or Category 2, which are those over $200,000. None of which I can foresee us thinking that we'd ask for next year, given where we are. And I will tell you on a really positive note that the large items that we had asked for in the FY21-22 budget pretty much are all going to be taken care of, which includes a lot of work on the silo, which will happen in September, to replace the dome on the silo, which has leaks in it, replace it, reseal it, work on the walls of the silo to make sure that there is no water seeping into the silo. And so that is a big job and a very expensive job that they are moving forward with. They also will be in the next FY21, in the near future, possibly beginning in the fall, replacing 4 large HVAC units that supply our heat and air conditioning to the building. So that will happen. Those are the 2 major things we've been asking for a long time. And in addition, they plan on recarpeting the downstairs plus offices of the other barn, which are in need of repair, and replacing stair treads on 2 of our stairways, which also are becoming a little safety hazard because they're torn treads. So those are big items that we've asked for. in the budget. And so I think I also sent you today, and I'm not sure I printed it, the budget testimony from last year. We did ask for an overall look at CA's entire operation, which hopefully they're going to be doing, but that was a ticket item that they hire outside consultants, and this was before we even knew that there was going to be a CA financial crisis. And those were the big CA asks, to continue with the tot lot survey, which they came, but we never really got presented with the full results, and I'm not sure where that stands. So we have to present testimony in September. So I would like at the next meeting to devote time to really coming up with our proposals. And then we still have another meeting in late August to fine tune them, but probably the next meeting might be good. So on September 10th is when they will have their first budget hearing. And it's really for capital items and category 2 items. Those are the high ticket items. The other items that we might need, minor things done in our facilities or in the open space in Oakland Mills, those are category 3, which are not asked for as part of the CA budget process, but separately to CA.
All right, thanks, Sandy. Well, first of all, I mean, I think it's great that we're getting several big items now. You know, the HVAC and the silo have been big concerns, and I didn't even know that the carpet went through. I thought that was one we asked for every year, and we just hoped that someday it would come true. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think we need to discuss this at least the next meeting, if not the next couple. And I mean, the only thing I would say is I think we do need to keep in mind what it says in this letter and what the, you know, reality for CA is, and you know, maybe, you know, temper our expectations when we go in asking for things. I mean, I'm usually one to go in and ask for everything because the worst they can say is no, but I think we also have to be you know, sensitive to what's going on with CA, and you know, really put some thought into, okay, what are our you know, very, very top priorities that we want to ask for even during a financial crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan?
Yes, Ginny.
Yeah, okay. If you can remember that what we were talking about when we had to cut the budget was that anything that's health or safety would be worked on. And everything you mentioned are what we consider or health and safety issues. So that's why those things are being approved. One of the things you may want to think about asking for, and I'm considering in the letter that I'm supposed to do, asking for projects, each CA board member is supposed to do that, is the bathroom study. And this would be for FY22, which Sandy's absolutely correct. That budget was approved in the past, but we're starting from scratch because of circumstances. So it'll be treated as a whole new budget. But I think we should be asking for that as the study for the need for bathrooms on the second floor of the barn. The other thing would be a second ice rink. Now I know there are pros and cons of that. And we also want to look at maybe partnering with the county, asking the county to partner with CA for that second sheet of ice. But basically, we are lucky in a way that everything that's being done falls under health and safety. But if it was something that wasn't health or safety, believe me, you wouldn't have gotten it. So that's FY21 that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right, Sandy?
Yes.
Yeah. So don't bother even talking about that. It's a done deal.
Right. That's done.
Yeah,
No, I just wanted to set the framework of a lot
no.
of things are getting done.
No, I didn't mean you not talk about it. I mean, yeah, this is like, you got it. Don't bring it up with the CA board. Stick with the FY22 budget because you've got this. There was very little money there for approval for these things, but it had to be health and safety. In fact, the CFO had to approve them, Susan Krabby.
You know, Jenny, ice skating and hockey are good exercise. So I think we could make the second rink a health item. You think we could pull that off?
Yeah, you want to take that off? Okay. Sure, Jonathan, right. I'm all for it.
All right, Sandy, did you have any?
It's even revenue raising, and it's an economic development issue for us for our restaurants and businesses.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, just to loop back on what you said about our desire for a county CA partnership, that did go in our county priorities list. So, we've reiterated that with the county for the second straight year. So we are on the record again with that.
Terrific. Okay.
Okay. Was there anything else on the fiscal 22 CA?
No, I just wanted to
One and
get
Cat
it
2
out
budget?
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, anything else from anyone on the board?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right. We're going to move on to old business now. And the first item of old business is one that we've talked about a few times, and I talked about it again at the last meeting in my report. That is the CA and Village Management Contract Amendment. And we have to, by the end of this week, go back to CA with a decision about what we want to do with the proposed amended management contract. And if you recall what I laid out last week after meeting with the CA staff and the CA board when the chairs got together at the Chrysalis, it's a sign it or don't. There is no negotiation. So we either stick with the current management contract, and if we stick with the current management contract, then our per incident responsibility for repairs to our facilities is capped at $1,000, right, Sandy?
Yes, and cumulative repairs of the same item.
Right.
Small repairs that get over 1,200.
Right. So 1,000 per or 1,200 cumulative if it's the same repair. But our cash reserve cap for this year is not waived, so we would be returning roughly $500. Do you have the exact amount, Sandy?
$594.
Oh, okay, so closer to $6. So $594 to CA. And then, we would be operating under the current management contract until it expires in, is that fiscal 24?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other option is to accept and sign the proposed amended management contract. What the proposed amended management contract does is it waives this year's cash reserve cap, so we would keep our $594. It does not waive it for future years, and it raises the per incident fee or the per incident ceiling that we would have to pay on any repairs to our facilities to $2,000 per incident. And Sandy, I forget, what does it do to the cumulative?
Oh, it raises that to 2,400.
Okay, so it effectively it doubles everything. So there are basically three things we can do, and two of them lead to the same outcome. One, we can choose to do nothing, and by doing nothing, it means that we stay under the old contract. Two, we can choose to, basically motion to accept the amended contract, and that does what I said, will happen under the amended contract. We keep our $600 for right now, but our ceilings go up to $2,000 or $2,400. Or three, we could vote down the amended contract, which has the same effect as doing nothing, except we're, I guess, making more of a statement and doing that for lack of any better description of what that would mean. But that would keep us under the current management contract, which means we return $594 this year, and we stay at the $1,000 per incident cap and the $1,200 cumulative for the same repair cap. So those are our three options on the management contract. I know we've discussed it a few times before, but I can open it up to discussion again if there are feelings one way or the other.
That's Jonathan.
Yes, Lynn.
Just clarification. So the second option is for 4 years, correct?
No.
Regardless of what we do tonight, I mean, whatever we do tonight, unless CA comes back with future amendments, would be what we're locked into through fiscal 24.
Yeah, the
right,
cash
Sandy?
reserve part, they'll review for everyone again next year. That was only a 1 year
Right.
thing.
So just to clarify, if we go with the amended contract, the increased ceilings on our responsibilities for repairs are in effect through the end of the contract. The waiver of the cash reserve cap is only for this year.
That means we would, under normal circumstances, be obligated to give it back next year regardless, unless they change that.
So, basically I guess it's a little bit of a gamble. Do we keep $600 in the bank right now, but run the risk that we could be out, an extra $1,000 every time there's a relatively expensive incident for the remainder of the contract? Or do we write the check for $600 now and know that, we're not going to be, paying out more than $1,000 per incident if something goes wrong at the other barn or one of the other facilities? Rebecca and Paul?
Paul was first.
Oh, Paul was first. I'm sorry, Paul and Rebecca.
I just think the downside risk in signing this is too great. Where I'm basically coming from is the vote against signing it. I see no reason why we should be doing it, particularly after you went to this meeting, Jonathan, and we were told it was all or nothing, no negotiation. That to me is a finger in the eye of every single village board. Just because CA's got problems, they're not willing to negotiate. That to me is unconscionable. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Rebecca?
I was just curious if we have a list of the past, I don't know, 5 years or so of the expenses, so that we can decide if it's worth the gamble. Like, do we tap into CA to repair things over 500 several times a year, or once every?
No, it's not over 500. It's over 1,000.
And
I went back.
Right, but right now it's 500.
No, it's 1,000.
No, it's 1,000 right now. It'll go to 2,000 if we sign.
Oh, 2,000. Oh, gotcha.
Right. And yeah, I asked Sandy to put that together. So Sandy does have a spreadsheet of that.
Yeah, I had 3 years of it, and actually the last time that we asked was at least 3 years ago when we had a lot of elevator repairs. They purchased a new ice machine, and actually they purchased the elevator and made a lot of repairs, consecutive repairs to the dumbwaiter, and then I added them up, and then that was when the cumulative thing kicked in, but that was 3 years ago. So in the past 3 years, we've had expensive repairs, like they're really good at charging $980 for a lot of things, but not one or cumulative over the 1,000 or 1,200. But it doesn't mean it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
and actually, as I looked at what you put together, that's one of the things I wondered about. Since there have been repairs that come really close to the ceiling but not quite over, does going to $2,000 give them more flexibility to go over, over what our own ceiling used to be?
Oh,
will that $980 repair, now become a $1,200 repair?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, who's doing the repair? Not CA themselves.
No, they hire vendors for the major. We go through their vendors and make contract vendors for certain buildings and different rates for different buildings and jobs, and then we go through them, and then they review everything before they bill us.
But that I mean, I think that is an important quirk that not everyone realizes. We manage the buildings. We're responsible for the repairs up to an amount, but we don't get to choose our contractors. We have to use the CA contractors.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but there's value in the contractors that are with us year in and year out. So it's not a bad thing than us each year trying on our own. We don't have that kind of expertise to give proposals and RFPs to all these different vendors that they do. And then I think they also have a bargaining power. So it's good and bad. We're pretty good with the vendors, and the vendors that we have not liked having in our building, they've given us some others that we've requested.
All right. Are there other thoughts on the management contract?
Probably need a vote, right?
Well, we maybe, because basically what if we don't, if we don't, then we're implicitly staying on the old contract, or if
Oh, right.
someone wants to motion to go one way or the other, we can have a vote. But not vote. I'm based on what I heard at the meeting, with the board chairs and CA, was that a non-response by a certain date would be continuing under the old contract. In fact, at that time, what Kristen was telling us was we were under the old contract. We didn't even know that at the time, and then they said, okay, we'll give you more time to get back to us on it. So they gave us till the end of this month. Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to not approve the amendment that has been sent to us by CA.
Okay, so there's a motion not to approve the amendment. So a yay vote would be against the amendment. A nay vote would be for the amendment. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor of not approving the amendment to the contract? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right. So Sandy, you can send something back to Krista now, letting her know that we're going to stay on the existing management contract. Okay. Next up is the discussion of Columbia Association legal action regarding Symphony Woods. So go ahead, Paul.
I think we had a pretty robust discussion last time around. I think Jen pretty well summarized the issues. And I think there was supposed to be a draft letter put together, if memory serves me right.
I don't have.
Pardon? Well, whatever.
I don't think that was brought up, was it, Jonathan?
No, that's why we're bringing it back as old business to determine if we do want to draft something and what form it would take. I mean, I think some of the questions last time were just that. What if we were taking a position, what does it mean to take that position now that it's a legal matter? And we're kind of down the line on the issue. I had Lynn and then Ginny.
I just wanted to clarify that I think there's been a little bit of a misunderstanding, and it may be on my part, but as I read it, the legal action is CA and Inner Arbor Trust on the one side against Downtown Columbia Arts Commission and IMA. And there's nothing about CA and Inner Arbor Trust against Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes is not part of this legal action. So that's not what we're doing here. We're talking about Meriwether on the one side and the people who do the programming in Meriwether, and the Arts Commission versus CA and Inner Arbor Trust. And my question is for you, Jenny, and that is that I think that the confusion is that there are so many players in this, having the 4 different players. And was there ever, so what we're talking about is that the agreement was not upheld. And so there's essentially trespassing on CA property, that there was a lien, there was an easement given, and they haven't held respect for the easement and the agreement. Is that correct?
Okay, if I respond?
Oh, of course, yes.
Okay, there were a couple of points I was going to make. Lynn's absolutely correct. There were some statements just previously that this was Howard Hughes property. In the past, for years and years, I don't know, maybe 20 or something, Symphony of Lights was on what is currently, was Rouse property and Meriwether Post property, what is currently Howard Hughes property. But as soon as that got developed, that was no longer available. to have the Symphony of Lights on that property. So that's what the real issue is. The lawsuit, so Howard Hughes, absolutely, you're correct, Lynn, is not involved. And if you read what I sent you and what is in the minutes, frequently asked questions, it's really, that's the only connection to Howard Hughes, is that their property is no longer available. And they are not interested in making any of their property available. They want that strictly to control their property. So in terms of the legal suit, and I'm in an awkward spot of not getting into too much legal issues here, but it's basically, the suit is to allow CA, or to make it very clear that CA controls the land, which means the residents of Columbia control what uses will be on that land. That has not been true last year, and that cannot continue. So that's the real issue, is the use of the land is really, I think, the primary issue here. Who is going to control that land? It's your property, it's CA property, and it has, and the last Symphony of Lights was conducted by really a profit organization, IMA. So that's why there's this lawsuit, is to make it very clear in the courts so that this does not happen again. And I'm not going to get into all the specifics about who did what to whom, but there have been attempts at negotiations and other parties refused to negotiate anything. So there was, if CA did not act, you would have the same problem that you had last year, where then it would happen, and you cannot allow that to continue. I believe you have to control your land. It's the last 51 acres downtown, and we have to preserve it. We have to maintain it. We have to control it, or the residents will be paying for maintenance of that land and repairs to that land, and that's what you've been doing all along. And that's not fair to the residents. There's not that much money to go around anymore, and it's also destroying the land. There's also other things that are occurring on the land, which I can't get into right now. There'll be other action taken on that in the future.
Jonathan?
Lynn, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was calling on you and then Paul.
Oh, okay. So again, I'm sorry if I'm taking up a lot of time with this, but I just want to be sure, because I think if we're going to vote on what we're doing, we need to have a clear picture on what we're supporting or what we're not supporting. And it feels like there's some missing pieces here as to what the full story is. We only have kind of one side of the story. So I don't understand that if the agreement is being violated, why this has to be a legal action. Why aren't they just trespassing and it's a law enforcement action? Is it a question of renegotiating what the agreement was? Is that the issue, that the agreement was too loose to start with as to what would be allowed in the easement and what wouldn't be allowed? Otherwise, I mean, if somebody drove trucks across my property and were destroying my trees, I would call the police. I wouldn't go to court on it. There'd be nothing to go to court to discuss. So that's my question. I don't think I have a full understanding of what the two sides are.
Yeah, I believe they have in the past, last year, indicated that they feel they can do anything they want on CA property, and CA is saying, no, you can't. And attempts made to try and resolve this without going to court have been unsuccessful. So the only way to handle this is to go to court about who really controls the use of our land, which includes some of the area that's easement, but it also includes other area where things have been built on the land that is not even in the easements, Lynn. It's like, well, I'm trying not to say too much because I do not want to jeopardize our legal case, but it's more than just the easements. It's people utilizing CA property for their advantage, and that is wrong. And we've got to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we have to end.
Yeah, I think I understand what the issue is. If you've used the property for X number of years, then you can say that you took it basically by use. And that's what CA has decided is not the case. They want to make sure that it's litigated and everybody's clear as to who the owner is and what other rights there may or may not be. My guess is that's why this is going to court. That's my view based on what I know about property rights, having been involved with stuff as a civil engineer. So, I mean, I fully endorse what CA is doing. They want to make sure that their property rights are clear. And apparently the rights have gotten muddied because of what's been done with the Symphony of Lights and maybe with easements that were maybe not legally done right or whatever. I have no idea. I'm not into their business. I'm just looking at this from a broad aspect. So, I mean, this is land that is owned by CA. Everybody has a right to it. And, you know, it shouldn't be just for certain people when they decide they want to use it. So that's my opinion in this whole thing.
Jonathan?
Yes, Ginny.
There seems to be a little misunderstanding here that the Symphony of Lights have always been where they were last year. That's not accurate. They were on Howard Hughes property, which is now developed, and it was a nonprofit, you know, the hospital was running that. Last year, a profit organization took this over and they went the other way. And that we were trying to stop, CA was trying to stop it, but the county had approved permitting, and I really don't want to get into all the specifics. So it was too late to stop what was going to happen and happened. That's when it got all on CA land, as well as, of course, other property. But it was no longer allowed on Howard Hughes property because Howard Hughes wasn't interested, or they had already developed that property, or they intend to develop that property, and it's much more valuable. So this is not something, this location of Symphony of Lights that you saw last year is not something that is on the same parcels exactly that it was for 25 years. So I think that's a misunderstanding. So we just want to make sure CA controls what goes on the property and what doesn't, and how destructive it is. That is the responsibility of CA to take care of the land for this generation and future generations, and also not to incur unnecessary expenses. I would hope that you'd support that. I think the other thing the board may want to consider is, you know, I don't know how to say this tactfully, but they've approved all the zoning downtown that removed that land from the Symphony of Lights. So maybe the county government should be requested to see if there's a way they can find a location for Symphony of Lights in Howard County. This is not just a Columbia event. People are coming from other areas. So maybe the county can come up with something else, and maybe that's something the board may want to consider asking in the letter, asking the county executive to be looking at other sites. And
So
asking, yeah.
here's I mean, I support, obviously I support, you know, CA's rights to do what it pleases with its land, just as anyone else who owns land should have those rights and should be protected against any kind of, you know, trespassing or destruction from outside parties. I guess the thing I'm struggling with is if the board is considering taking some sort of action, I'm still not clear on what that action is now that this has gone to court. I mean, ultimately a judge is going to make a decision on this. It's no longer it's no longer a negotiation where parties can weigh in or anything like that. And, you know, since there are pieces of the case that you can't share, I'm just, I guess what I'm asking is if we take a position, what does that mean, and what are we getting ourselves into since it's already in the courts?
Well, I think it may be in the courts, but I'm sure you're well aware that the blogs and the people that do not want this to happen, that they want to be able to do whatever they want on CA land, as well as they can do currently whatever they want on DAC land, or what people refer to as Meriwether Post land. And this is a profit organization, IMA, keep that in mind. That at least the board would take a position saying, we certainly support CAs and our right as residents to guarantee that we can control what occurs on our land, and also control perhaps the unnecessary expenditures that might result in damage to the land. I would think that from a financial point of view, and from preserving Symphony Woods, which is, it's like a mini Central Park. I mean, that's 51 acres down there is a jewel in Columbia. How many places are we going to have with that much property in Columbia? The board should be very interested in this and should be wanting to tell that to the county executive and the delegation, so that they're not just hearing from people that are really self-serving and interested in making a profit. And if they, if you don't balance that with your advocacy for preserving the land, then, and having CA, which is you, control it, that's a position the board should be taking, in my opinion. But you don't have to have a legal document. It's just a philosophy. It's a point of view. And the county would pay attention to that, and they'd get at least your point of view, the board's point of view, versus just somebody that's helping to organize other people to say, oh my God, we can't lose Symphony of Lights, you know? Not on CA property if it's going to cause damage. Find another place and ask the county executive to maybe look into, maybe he can. We have a whole big county here. Maybe they can find a better position.
Question.
Sandy?
So there's a lawsuit, and you said they all tried to negotiate, but has in any of the negotiations, has IMA or the Downtown Columbia said, we won't go on your land next year, and we're not going to do this, and have you all talked it out, or are they saying we're going to blatantly trespass again unless there's a lawsuit? Like, I just feel like there should be some negotiations that we're not privy to, but have they said we're going to go ahead and do this in your negotiations, we're going to go ahead and do what we did last year, or we're not going to do it, we respect CA, and we're not going to do that same driving on your land?
Okay, first of all, if you keep in mind all the lights that were on Howard Hughes property, they're claiming they need a lot of territory. They cannot just do it on the DAC, the DAC area. So they can't claim it can't be done on just the DAC area. And yes, there were a lot of months spent trying to negotiate and get people to the table. And that just wasn't working. Last year, CA tried negotiating, and unfortunately, without CA's permission, a permit was issued by the county, and I'm really trying not to discuss too many legal parts of this, but was issued by the county that allowed them to do it. And if you want us to sit back and do nothing, it's already July. Not you, Sandy, but if we were to sit back, if we were to sit back and do nothing and keep saying, well, we really should just keep talking, the permit process will come and go, because you do, in defense of anybody that wants to do something and needs a permit, you need to apply for the permit. And if it gets approved again, you cannot stop it. And here we go again with another year and another destruction. And I think that's unconscionable.
So
So
So the
this
lawsuit's
is where I'm
already
still I'm still confused. If let's say they wanted to do Symphony of Lights on my street, you know, a county street, but it was going to spill over into my front yard. The county can actually issue a permit that lets someone have their activity spill over into my front yard from my street? Because I'm trying to make the analogy here, and it just doesn't make any sense that the county can give someone a permit that spills over onto someone else's property.
really, that happened. It happened. And I really, it happened. It absolutely happened.
So
I totally agree with what you're saying, but it was signed off. And I don't want to get into the specifics, but it happened. You can go look, you can go down at the county offices and see that permit.
okay, Paul?
I just want to comment on what Jenny just said. The county has been doing what I think in other areas are also illegal. This is blatantly illegal what was done. They should not have been issuing the permit for use of private land in this particular instance. They have done this when they've made decisions in other venues and ignored law. This is not new, unfortunately. End of my opinion.
Okay. Bill and then Lynn?
I think Lynn was right ahead of me, Jonathan. If
Oh.
you have Lynn go and then me.
See, everyone's in different places on our screens. Okay, Lynn and then Bill.
Mine is really quick. It's just a comment. It seems then that our issue is more with Howard County and their permitting than it is with any kind of misunderstanding or people feeling that they just kind of willy-nilly, capriciously can kind of hold events on property that's owned by someone else. So maybe we're going after the wrong entities and going after Merriweather and the people who do the programming at Merriweather.
Yeah, my take is that philosophically, I'm with CA all the way. I co-own land in Ellicott City, and many years ago, we had people camping out in the woods on our property, and we had to do some things and get them removed. It's very important that people don't get any idea about adverse possession or what is squatters' rights or any of that. It's also no good that the county breaks its own laws. My concern is, those are all my concerns philosophically. Getting down to nitty-gritty, I do not have all the legal documents in front of me. I do not know what easement CA has signed and where, et cetera. So I'm hesitant to take a stand in the lawsuit scenario because I don't have enough information personally. From the point of view of a general statement that CA needs to have control over all of its land, along with any permits or easements that CA has negotiated, that I'd be for that philosophically, and I'd be for saying to the county, please find a place for Symphony of Lights that does not, that is on county property, okay? Put it that way. Those two things I'd be for. Philosophical for CA to control its land, given any other legal documents that they've signed about control of that land. And I'd be for asking the county to find a place on county land for Symphony of Lights.
Bill, that's absolutely perfect. That's really all we're asking for, is that type of support would go a long way. It would show your leadership in what is an environmental issue, fiscally conservative issue. You know, it's just that is exactly it in a nutshell. That's all you have to do. Otherwise, you're going to spend you're gonna have to hire lawyers to interpret a lot of this stuff. I don't think
Yeah.
that's what a board should be doing, quite frankly. So that's it in a nutshell. Perfect.
Yeah, Bill, and that's just what I was thinking, because that last question I asked Ginny, it wasn't rhetorical. I was serious. Like, is this really what happens in the county with the permitting process? Because I think that's where the issue lies. I mean, this happens to be a dispute between a couple of entities, but the root cause is not necessarily with either of these entities in the lawsuit. The root cause is, respecting property rights in the county. We had Lynn, and then Bill, will go back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'd love it if Bill would make his statement into a proposal of something that we could vote on.
Yes, I will. And I do believe the issue that Ginny talks about the county, the permitting process, on the land that I co-own, I won't get any details, but I'm dealing with it this year. I've had, I've had 2 different answers from a county entity, and I had to go to the top to get it resolved. Okay, so I do believe the situation. In my case, I don't think it was malicious. I think it was someone well-intentioned but didn't know all the details. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Been there, done that in the last 3 months. I moved that we let me think here. Let's see who the letter is going to be to. Okay, I moved that we write a letter to CA and the county that we support the general position that CA needs to have control of its land, given any legal documents, easements, et cetera, it has signed with the land. And I, in the letter, or second letter, whichever we feels best, write a letter to the county, copy CA, that the county find county land for the Symphony of Lights.
Well, if I could suggest that be just in one letter, and it go to the county executive, the county council, and the delegation has played a role. I know this sounds strange, but a year and a half, 2 years ago, in some of what's going on. So it would be really nice if the delegation heard from all the village boards. But I think this would be another Oakland Mills leadership, taking the leadership on this issue, Oakland Mills Village Board.
Yeah, Ginny, I was going to say the same thing, Bill. I think everything you just said in 2 letters, I think we may as well put it in one so it's clear to all recipients what our position is. Because I think the county needs to hear more than we want them to find another place for the Symphony of Lights. I think they need to hear our feelings on property rights. And similarly, I think CA, needs to hear what we're telling the county. So instead of sending it to and copying the other twice, let's just send it to all. If you're okay with amending that before we second it, or I can second it and then we can amend it in discussion.
Okay, or I could, Amy, can I withdraw my motion and restate?
Yes, it hasn't been seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, I withdraw my previous motion. I move that we send a letter to county executive, council, CA, the county delegation, stating that we support CA's right to control its land, given any legal documents it has signed concerning its land, and that we ask the county to find county land to hold the Symphony of Lights in this coming year and in the future.
I second it.
Okay, we have a second from Lynn. Is there further discussion?
A quick question. Should we say somewhere in there just to say to protect the land from further environmental damage, so it doesn't just sound like CA is a bunch of, well, never mind, I won't get into stereotypes, but that they're marching around the edge of their land saying don't trespass here? You know what I mean?
The only reason I would suggest not doing that is that if it's a precedent, we don't want it to be restricted only to cases where CA has environmentally fragile land. It should be property rights for any land that CA owns.
That's a really good point, Lynn.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is,
yeah.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, Rebecca, was that just a question or was that a motion
Just
to
a comment,
amend?
not a motion.
Okay.
Pass over it then.
Okay, all right. Then all in favor of the the content of a letter as Bill stated it in his motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, opposed, abstain. Very good. All right. The next one is hopefully a quickie. This was,
Jonathan, I
yes.
apologize for interrupting. I was serious about Oakland Mills has done this many times, taken leadership positions. Is there any chance that you could share that with the other village boards? It's an excellent letter.
Once we have something drafted, Sandy can send it to the other managers, or I can send it to the other chairs, or both.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay. Okay, our next old business item is our board representative to serve on the CA committee for the Howard County General Plan and Zoning. We talked about this as new business in the last meeting, and Paul volunteered to be our representative if we wanted to consider Paul. I'm going to try to make this quick, and then we can always have discussion. I'm going to make a motion to send Paul's name forth as the Oakland Mills Village Board representative to CA for the general plan and zoning committee work.
I second.
Okay, now is there discussion on that? All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
John,
I'll let Kristen know, Paul, and you got the schedule.
it's tomorrow. I was just going to ask if Sandy could
Yeah, I
do that.
sent it
That's
to
great.
him, right, Paul?
Yeah, if you send it to me and also the link for whatever.
Did you get what I sent you from Kristen? There were 2 things about the meeting. I'll resend it.
It's 7 o'clock tomorrow night. It'd be really good if Sandy could possibly let Kristen know so that.
I'm going to let her know tonight when the meeting's over.
Yeah, and then she can contact Paul.
Just send that to me again because
Yeah, I will.
I think it's gotten lost in my email.
Okay.
All right, next on our agenda is another piece of old business. We've discussed this several times, and we even have breaking news, and that is we have to make a decision tonight because the applications are due at the end of this month about whether we want to apply for I always forget what EIDL stands for, Economic Impact.
Injury
and
Disaster loan.
Disaster loan, thank you. Economic injury and disaster loan. Basically, the way that loan works is we can, we can actually draw down that loan in certain amounts, and Sandy can go into discussion on that. I believe its interest rate from the time of disbursement is it a 2.75% APY?
Over 30 years,
or
and you
APR?
start your first payment a year after.
A year after
you get the
disbursement.
loan.
So one of the things
you don't
we
draw
have
it
to
down. You get the lump sum, and then you can ask for more if you want more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sorry. We start with, we would have to start by requesting an amount, and then we can go back for more if necessary. So Sandy, Bill, and I met once again last week to go over the budget and the numbers. And Sandy has a proposed amount for the EIDL loan. But what we just learned, I believe yesterday, is that we received the state grant that we never thought we would receive. So we do have a grant now for $10,000 to help us with our, the expenses we need to get to basically stand back up, make our facilities safe, and help bridge the gap because of all the lost revenue we have. So we do have a $10,000 grant coming in. Thank you, Sandy, for doing all the paperwork to get us that, even though you didn't think there was a chance we would get it. Somehow you pulled it off. But we do have the opportunity to take out this loan, and it can be in a relatively small amount. And again, there's payments don't start until a year from the disbursement, and it's a relatively low interest rate over a 30-year payback period. So Sandy, do you want to go ahead and toss the numbers out there for consideration?
Okay, well, we had talked about not wanting to get in a position where we're borrowing and then we have to borrow to pay back what we borrowed. So that's not our intention with the loan. So I would recommend, and after talking to Bill and John, that first of all, we have that $10,000 grant that if used for the proper COVID-related expenses and payroll expenses and utilities, much like the PPL loan was or grant was, that we have that $10,000. And we've certainly actually covered that already. And that we asked for 10,000 more of the EIDL loan. And again, in the loan information, it said that you can borrow up to 150,000. So we could, you know, if things don't improve in a year or whatever, or during that year, you can ask for more. But to ask for 10,000 in that loan, which would give us $20,000 in grants and loans, 10,000 of which would be paid back beginning next year at a 2.75% interest rate. And that would be at $44 a month, given the math.
Yeah, and my thoughts on the numbers. So, you know, Bill, Sandy, and I met to go over the numbers so far, and we're already approaching about $10,000 in spending just to get our facilities stood up so they can at some point in the future generate revenue again. So, I mean, my feeling on, well, a grant's a grant. That's wonderful because that's free money as long as it's used properly. As Sandy said, my feeling on the loan is not to, you know, to borrow money to service other debt and then continue borrowing money. My feeling on it is if we borrow the money, it's a one-time thing under the philosophy that you have to spend, we're going to have to spend some more money to make some more money. If we can't, right, if we can't carry some staff over, if we can't get the buildings ready for whatever the new normal is, then we can't open up and start generating any revenue. So, you know, my thoughts are to go with the relatively small amount on the EIDL loan to help carry us over so that we can start generating revenue either later in the fiscal year or early next year, and then, you know, not do the additional borrowing. I mean, my feeling is if we find ourselves in a place months from now where there's still no revenue and we think we have to do additional borrowing, then, you know, we may need to, you know, cut back drastically because we can't just keep borrowing on the hope that revenue will come in. I'd like to borrow initially to set us up to bring revenue in, and then hopefully by showing that we have safe facilities and, you know, and we've taken all of our precautions, people will want to use our facilities and we'll have that revenue to service the loan and also to start, you know, becoming self-sufficient again. So that was my feeling on the issue when Bill, Sandy, and I met to talk about the potential of taking the loan at all, and also the potential for how much we would want to take. So I was right there around the 10,000 too, just based on what we've already spent to start getting the facilities ready. Bill and then Paul.
My take on all of this is that the loan money would be earmarked for doing all the things necessary to get our facilities ready to rent. That's expense that we have to spend upfront, and that as we will rent out, that revenue would come in and ultimately cover that expense. That if we don't do this, we're going to be hard pressed to get the buildings in shape to rent out. So we have to spend money wisely to make money.
And Paul?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, we probably have the figures somewhere. So our major source of revenue is basically from weddings. What can we expect on a monthly basis, usually from weddings? I know this is not the usual.
I can tell you in a minute. Let me just minimize my screen. Brigida gives me a spreadsheet after each month of COVID right now, cumulatively of the month. So I'm pulling it up. So
okay. And the other thing is, you know,
I can give you a figure for the month. Well, I have May, June, and July on here. And the rental amount for those 3 months, so divided by 3, because each month would have been pretty much exactly the same, was $46,000.
Okay, so we can reasonably assume that if we get this into rental shape, that we would have an income stream to retire. That's the
Well,
only after.
the thing is, people don't want to rent right now. We'll get it in shape to rent, but there still is the pandemic, and people are, a lot of them are waiting for till there's a vaccine. So we will have a few rentals. The building will be in shape. We're going to spend all that money, but it doesn't mean that people are going to rent it, because people still do not want to gather in large crowds. So that's the reality. But also the reality is we have to be ready. So that's what we're talking about. So we'll have a few rentals this fall. People are calling. We are setting up tours, but it won't be robust like it was. We'll have 1 or 2 in September. In September, if they're doing the silo work, we might, not be able to have as many. We'll have a few in October. It all depends on how the things that the pandemic is and what's going on with that. But we are getting the building ready, because if someone wants a date in September, we have to have the big purifiers installed in the loft and all the other things ready and waiting for them, and the neighborhood centers ready and waiting. So does that help?
Yeah, but let me pose a hypothetical. What do you estimate that you get in the way of quote unquote profit, because you're still having to pay for Brigida's time and the rest of that
I have it all.
From a wedding? I mean,
We probably get about 65% of it in profit, and then there's more cleaning, and it's not just Brigida. It's the staff that is at the party, the cleaning that's involved in the party. So say we have Jonathan do the math. Say we bring in 2,200 at a wedding. Probably about 65% of that is profit.
Okay. My only concern is that even with reduced use of the facilities, that we've got the wherewithal over time to be able to retire this loan. I mean, that's
unless the world just continues to be just horrible like it is now, if we are optimistic, I would say a year from now we look forward to robust weddings, and 3 a weekend, maybe on a weekday, because people are anxious now to be able to, for the time to hold the event.
Yeah.
We can't control it right now because of what's going on, but we are ready.
And remember, this is 10,000 with a 30-year repayment period. Now, I would, if I'm around for several more board years, yeah. I would be all for doing the Lee Iacocca thing and paying it off early. But this isn't. I mean, we would have to be in really, really severe, dire straits for many, many years not to be able to service this amount. My concern, though, is if we don't take it now, we're kind of hanging on by a thread now, and like I said, the only way to start making money in the short term is to spend some money, because we're not going to be able to attract anyone to these facilities, nor would we want to. It's not safe for us to attract anyone to these facilities until we finish making the investment and making them safe for however long they need to be that way. Are there other questions, comments?
Are you going to do it in the terms of a motion like I emailed you?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do, and hopefully this isn't an easy one because it's a grant, so there aren't any repayment strings attached, is we do have to decide whether we're going to accept the grant. So I'll make a motion now to the board to approve acceptance of the Maryland Small Business Association grant in the amount of $10,000, approve all terms and conditions outlined in the grant, approve Sandy Cedarbaum, Oakland Mills Village Manager, as authorized signer for the grant on behalf of the Oakland Mills Community Association, and absolve Ms. Cedarbaum personally of all grant agreement terms and conditions. So that's for the grant.
I second.
Okay, is there discussion on the grant? All right, all in favor of accepting the grant? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oppose? Okay, abstain? All right, so we'll go ahead with the grant. Okay, now on the loan. I'll make a motion to approve acceptance of an economic injury disaster loan in the amount of $10,000, approve all terms and conditions outlined in the loan, approve Sandy Cedarbaum, Oakland Mills Village Manager, as authorized signer for the loan on behalf of the Oakland Mills Community Association, and absolve Ms. Cedarbaum personally of all loan agreement terms and conditions.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Is there further discussion on the loan? Okay, all in favor of applying for the loan in the amount of $10,000? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, oppose? Abstain? Okay. All right, Sandy, do you have everything you need on those?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Oh, that's the end of old business. Okay, board chair report. I got something. Oh, Sandy, it was 600 on both.
Okay, thank you.
I got something from Andy Stack and Sherry Zarette. They sent it to me and asked me to send it out to the other board chairs, and I was a little confused about what they were looking for. Were they just looking for the opinions of the board chairs, or do they want each of the board chairs to take it to their board and respond to them independently? And it turns out, I think they want to hear, through the board chairs from the boards, some answers to questions. So I'm going to distribute to them. I cannot talk. I'm going to distribute them to all of you via email. But I also just want to read out the questions now, so I can get them out there during my chair report, because Andy would like a response by August 15th, which means we effectively can communicate these over email, and then hopefully have a discussion at the next meeting if we agree to have that discussion. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to make this a new business item, so I'm doing it under my report because I was just interacting with Andy over email this weekend to figure out what it was he was really asking me to do, and I didn't realize that what he wanted was each board to do it, and he was just communicating to all the boards through me. So basically what Andy and Sherry are looking at is that CI is almost 55 years old, but with the current pandemic and the financial setbacks for CA, there have been some weaknesses exposed. And they're looking at whether CA should change the services it provides, think of different ways to provide services, basically look to the future. So he sent me 5 questions, and I'll send them to all of you, and I'd like your feedback. The first question is in 3 parts. Who do you consider to be CA's primary stakeholders? Who do you consider to be CA's secondary stakeholders? Who do you consider to be CA's allies? They're defining stakeholders, primary stakeholders, as those CA is obligated to serve directly per its mission. Secondary is those CA wants to reach out to in the larger community with programs and services. And allies are those who impact the community and can help CA serve the greater good. And as examples, he gives the county and the state. Question 2 is, what do you think are CA's values and guiding principles? Question 3 is, what do you consider to be CA's milestones and accomplishments since 2000? Question 4 is, what do you think are some things which did not turn out well or we should have accomplished? And question 5 is, what constraints and challenges do you think CA faces in both in the next 12 months and the near future? This is something for all of us to consider. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, but it's something I'll distribute to all of you via email. And, we can exchange responses over email. And like I said, have some discussion about this at the next meeting and see if we want to send a response back to Andy and Sherry from Oakland Mills Village Board. And I did distribute this to the other board chairs, and I told them, you know, this is for discussion between you and your boards potentially. It's not getting routed through me. I'm not the messenger on this one or the consolidator on behalf of all the villages. We want to hear from each village individually, but they they used me to get the message out, I guess. So I
We're just
apologize
the
for not.
messenger.
I apologize for not getting that on the agenda, but I was a little confused initially about what Andy was asking for. And by the time I got it clarified, we'd already put our agenda out and everything. And it was, I think it was like Sunday night. So I'll circulate that to all of you. Lynn?
I'm just wondering, is this going to be sent eventually to residents?
I can ask Andy. The way he addressed it to me was that he's distributing these questions to the village chairs, and we believe the villages can provide valuable information. So if we want to, I mean, look, it's ours now to do with what we want. So if we want to, I would be very happy to, you know, put this out to Oakland Mills in an email or put it on our social media and let people weigh in over the next couple of weeks, and then we can see what the responses are and discuss it at the next meeting. You know, the only constraint we have is for whatever reason they want it by August 15th. So that's why I had to bring it up tonight, and we have the next meeting, and then the 15th will come and go. Paul?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea to put it out to the village, put it out through our email and social media and the rest of that. And the thing that kind of bothers me about his questions, I mean, he's trying to look forward, but he doesn't allow for other issues to be brought forward. And that kind of bothers me, that he's got some tunnel vision that he's only looking at. And I think that's the wrong way to go with this, but that's my own opinion. I mean, I think we should add our own other issues to this list that he's got.
So I agree with you, Paul, and my thought on it is we can interpret these questions very, very broadly and work in whatever we want to say.
I do think, though, that we should send it out to all the residents, because I wouldn't want to be, you know, 7 people speaking for everyone in Oakland Mills.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Like I said, at first I thought he just wanted the 10 board chairs to speak for all the villages, and then it was no, you know. So I'm happy to get it to as broad an audience as possible, you know, because he's not perfectly clear in his intent, but we can do with it what we want now that it's ours. Bill, and then Sandy.
2 points. One is who, if we get 100 responses, do we have the staff to compile the results?
No, I don't think that's for us to do.
Okay, so that's one issue, is the logistics. I agree, get the input, but then the practical logistics of compiling it is an issue. Secondly, a question for Ginny is, is this part of a examination of conscience on CA's part, so to speak, and looking at where we are, where we need to be, et cetera?
Well, I don't know if I'd put examination of conscience, but it's what we talked about a month ago, is based on the financial considerations. It's what are the real core services that CA should be providing? What's, you know, and so how do you go about getting input on that? One is the village boards. The other we will be the residents. There will be a contact with the residents. Now, I haven't seen those questions. I don't think anybody else on the board has, although I may have missed a key email. So I would like to look at those questions myself before this goes out in our emails, you know, our mailing list to the residents. We may be changing some of those. But that's the whole purpose, is if you only have so much money, let's start with what's the real core service. Like, let me give you one example. Open space, is that a service we should be providing? We don't want to answer these. This is, you know, but the thing is that the most important service that CA should be providing? What are the most important things in priority, if possible? And, you know, what are some others that we've been doing for years and you've been saying you shouldn't be doing. That's basically it. Because this budget, well, I guess I'm sort of covering a lot of what I'll be saying later, but this is a pretty serious budget. CA has not had to redo a second year budget, and this is really starting from scratch. And the fact that we're trying to figure out what to do about before and after school programs, which is a revenue producer. And if we don't get that revenue coming in, we're going to be in even more trouble. So it's like, where do we start? What are the services we must do? Basically must do. And what would be nice to do if we have the money to do it? And what are things we can drop? And the fourth thing is, what are things that we're doing that the county or the state should be doing? That's my own philosophy, but I really want to look at those questions, see if they hit on any of that.
Yeah, and they're in your inboxes. Sandy?
Can I talk? Yeah, it's nice to send it out. Even if we had the manpower, I don't think it's for us to tab. I mean, we can't. It's just pretty much me and Brigida and one other person right now doing a whole lot of stuff. But I would think that we're doing this as a courtesy to CA to get the word out, that hopefully they will take the tally. But I also think that if we send it out, we need to say why we're sending it, and so that we're not giving them an expectation that what's going to happen with it, because we have no idea if CA gets 700 responses from Oakland Mills, what they're going to do with it. So I think it's great to send it out and get the input, but we can't put an expectation as to what will happen with the information.
Good point.
Well, we can always put a disclaimer.
Right.
With whatever we send out, that this is being sent out at the request of CA, because this is their way of getting to basically the villages and getting their input. So we're asking for your input because you live in our village.
Yeah. And I think it's good that we do that, because in all the 30 plus years I've been here, I've never once gotten a CA survey that's gone to residents, nor do I know anyone that sometimes has. So I think the more we can do to get that information, the better.
Bill?
I think it might be good to, before we send it out to our residents, to check with CA to see that
right.
They want it out there and that they're willing to receive it and tabulate it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether CA is going to be sending one, and will the wording be the same? Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of confused people.
Right.
Yeah, I'll send something back to Andy right now and ask him those questions, because that's what I was thinking. If CA is planning to do something resident focused, it could be they want to hear from the village boards first and then from the broader residents. It's like I said, it was kind of unclear to the point that I had to go back to Andy over the weekend and say, so what is it you want me to do with this?
And if they were going to send it to the residents, it might not be what we're going to send on their behalf that they send to you.
Yeah. So, and I'll be checking on it as well. We're meeting tomorrow. So.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
Oh, the MCRC.
Oh, yes, MCRC. So Sandy and I are scheduled to meet with the director of the MCRC on, I think, Monday afternoon. She's away this week. I'm sure she's out. So I think it's on Monday afternoon. So she emailed us before she left, and of 8 potential participants, we sent forth 4 email addresses, and of the 4 email addresses to which they distributed surveys, she got 3 survey responses to date. So, one of the things she wants to talk about with us is whether there's a path forward with only 3 survey responses. So, even though she's away, we can still get email addresses into them. We can still get surveys out to you. So, I'll put the pitch out there one more time that if you provide Sandy an email address where you'd like to receive the survey, she'll get it into the MCRC. And then if you can go ahead and take the survey between now and Monday when we meet, we'll have a better idea of whether we'll have enough active participation, or we want to thank them for their time and move on.
This is the conflict resolution.
Yes. All right, and unless there are questions for me, I can hand it off to Ginny.
Thanks, Jonathan and guys. I actually think I've covered everything over the last hour and a half, so I don't have anything more to add other than I'm going to keep you informed about the budget process, because it's really important that people pay attention to it and have a say and tell us what they want, what they don't want, and what they think are, as I said, the core services that we should be providing. I want to thank you for your previous support on what I think is a really important issue. So I guess that's about it. The clubs are doing about 33% business. For the most part, people seem to be happy. When somebody leaves a club, many of them get a survey and they respond back. But people seem to really obey the rules, in terms of what they're told to do when they enter the club. We have had at our last board meeting one resident say that he wanted to insist that people wear masks the entire time they're in a club. And another one told one of our CA reps that he felt because he had a condition, diabetes, that he should be considered vulnerable and should be allowed to attend the athletic club, where they close the club down from 1 to 1:30, and from 1:30 to 3:30 they have people 60 plus attend. And he felt, even though he wasn't 60, he should be allowed there. And on the surface, that may make sense, but the more we thought about it, I said, I think we needed to get an opinion from our medical director. And how would you go about implementing that, and how would it be fair? It'd be very complicated, frankly, to make exceptions. And then would you have people that are currently using it feel it's getting way too crowded and too many people that are way under 60, and they would then leave. So it's not a simple issue. The same issue with wearing a mask all the time. Yeah, that when you're on a treadmill and you're going very fast, or you're on the bike and you're going fast, people can take the mask off. If you require them wear it, will we be losing customers? And is there a medical reason why you do that? It's a state law that you don't have to do that now, or a state regulation. So why would we make that change? Does it make any sense? So that's being looked at again. But right now, I don't know, Bill, I've seen you over at the club. I don't know if anybody else has been over there. But I'm personally very impressed with the way the staff at the athletic club, at least, and at the Supreme. And I also asked how you would be wearing a mask in the aquatics classes and swimming, et cetera. I don't think that's even feasible. So these are complicated issues, and CA is following whatever the state health department tells us to do. And sometimes the county health department and the county executive require more than that, and we follow that. So it just seems to be working okay, unless you're hearing complaints on anything in terms of any of our openings. If you are, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know, or have people call me directly.
There's a lot of conversation on Nextdoor about the masks, and a lot of, so just to know that there's a lot of conversation about mask, no mask, or masks only hours. So that's out there.
That's a really great idea, having certain times where
Yeah,
you always have to have masks, so that people who feel less comfortable.
right.
Yeah, so everything's being explored with our medical director as to whether we should make more restrictions. But and you could even, I guess, look at vulnerable people under 60, different
Right.
hours at a different club. So we're looking at everything. But every time you do that, you're closing a club to other people. And how many times can you do that before it gets very confusing? So it's not a simple issue. I'll be really glad when this is all over. And financially, as I say, the before and after school, Michelle is doing her best looking at other buildings even to where maybe we can open some programs because that is a moneymaker.
So are you thinking,
Lynn,
how would that work?
Sandy, hang on. Lynn's been trying to get in.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn.
Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with the clubs. This is another issue. And Ginny, I totally understand all of the constraints that CA is under, but I was just wondering for information, as I've been driving around, I've noticed that the areas at the entrances to all of the villages in Columbia that normally have by the sign, they have the very beautiful plantings that now the plantings aren't there and there's mulch there. And I'm wondering, are those plantings, is that landscaping one of the sort of casualties of the budget constraints that CA is facing? And if so, understandable, but I just wanted to know, and also wondering what the potential impact of that might be on our beautiful garden outside of the other barn.
Okay, I don't know the answer, but I just took notes on that and I'll get it for you, okay?
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
Go ahead, Sandy.
So at the other barn, there are really pretty flowers surrounding the silo. So that was planted, but then in the courtyard, they've cleaned it all up from a few weeks ago. It was really a mess. They've cleaned it up, but there aren't flowers. And I think I read somewhere that they're not planting because of the budgets, but they're keeping it maintained.
Yeah, but I'll double check that, guys, and get back to you. Another thing that I'd like to get your opinion on, it's my understanding that I think you'd be okay, excuse me, with my adding to at least a CA board members list for Oakland Mills would be not just the second sheet of ice, but also to continue to move ahead with at least the study, which was just a couple of grand, as to whether bathrooms up on the second floor would be feasible or not. Is that okay? Hello, anybody?
Okay with me.
Okay with me.
Okay with me.
All right, so that'll be in my letter, which I have to get in by September 10th, just those two items. If there's a third item, let me know. But as far as the other stuff is expensive. I can get you the exact amount, but that was in FY21 and you were promised that. And it was safety and health, and there was enough money left in to do that. So, okay. If there's anything else you want in my letter, just let me know.
All right. Thanks, Ginny. Any other questions for Ginny? Okay, we'll move on to Sandy.
Okay, can I ask one more question for Jenny that I didn't get to ask?
Sure.
For before and after care, I'm not quite sure how it'll work if the kids are at home. Like, when would you offer before and after care? Is it during the day so they would help the kids whose parents are working do their schoolwork?
Michelle is working on, Michelle Miller, you know her, right?
Yeah.
She is working on a lot of different options with the state as to full daycare, partial daycare, et cetera, even looking at the teen center, which we actually tried a couple of months ago and almost got approval, but then they said there was no need because there was enough private daycare opening up. But now we're just trying to figure out, are there other options? How flexible can we be? And using our facilities possibly, and that's what she's working on. So there's no answer. If you have any suggestions of any of our facilities here, I think they were looking at something at Stonehouse, the teen center. But if you have any suggestions for them, let me know.
Bill?
Real quick, I worked for Rec and Parks, the recreational licensed childcare. Got an email this week that Rec and Parks this summer has been offering summer camps at some of the schools, and there's a lot of restrictions on the activities, et cetera. And now for the coming school year, since everything will be virtual instruction, the county, Rec and Parks, is talking with the school board about using school buildings to provide daycare from 7 in the morning till 6 at night, or you could get 9 to 3 during the day or anywhere in there. And I've been asked what schools and shifts and all that, would I like to work and would I want to work and all that. So Rec and Parks is being pretty aggressive about going after the possibilities. So you might want to pass that on to Michelle to be aggressive going after the schools.
No, she is, believe me. And all options are on the table because we desperately need that money, to be honest with you.
And parents
And
desperately
you need that
a place for
money.
their kids.
What?
Parents desperately need a place for their kids.
I know. Yep.
All right, Sandy, let's move on to your report.
Okay, most everything was covered. Our covenant advisor, Carrie, had to take a temporary leave of absence. So looking at our staff, we had myself and Brigida actually are co-covenant advisors in addition to other things. And so we've pretty much spent most of the last 2 weeks getting all the applications that were reviewed out to people and processed. There was just a lot of the RAC had met like 5 times in a row. Thank you, Lynn and RAC members. And so we just wanted to get everything in order, processed. There was a meeting on the 16th and 23rd that we held. So we'll be in good shape. It's just an extra thing, but Brigida was able to step up to the plate, and so we're working that out. So Kara will be back, but it's just a temporary leave, and we're working through it. So in the facility, I've met with Jeremy, and I met with the Fidelity HVAC person who knows our building better than anyone as far as heating and air conditioning. And we ordered through CA these big air UV light they're called air pair. They're fans, purification fans with UV filtration and HEPA that they will mount at each end of the loft, which catty corner to each other, which should provide good pure air circulation in the loft. So those are ordered, and Jeremy will be there when CA installs them because he knows exactly where they should be. And I've ordered 5 of 10 or 12 little air purifiers, and actually Brigida and I were there today, and we each set one up in our office, and it has the UV, the HEPA, and again, all the hand sanitizing stations and stands and all of that. So we're getting there. What else is going on? We've done a lot of the letters of compliance, selling a lot of HOA packets. I did raise the price on those. All the other villages were at $25, so they're $25. I don't know, just keep moving on.
All right,
Did I
thanks,
miss
Sandy.
anything?
Any questions for Sandy? All right, Lynn, do we have any architecture items?
No, I just want to thank Sandy and Brigida for just stepping in and doing such a great job. The past 2 meetings that we've had, we've been having weekly RAC meetings, and you know, it's a challenge to just kind of turn on a dime and get all those applications up for everybody to be able to access them on Zoom and to follow up on them. And I think it went really smoothly the past couple of weeks. We did 14 application reviews for external alterations, and I'd say 3/4 of them were pretty complicated. They weren't just kind of, you know, I'm painting my door a different color or I'm taking down a dead tree. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. So just wanted to call attention to that and thank them. And that's it.
Yes, thank you. Well, then, Lynn, let's just stick with you because you're in my top left corner tonight for bulletin board.
Okay, nothing more.
Okay, I have nothing more. Amy, do you have anything?
No.
Okay, Bill?
Real quick, Mike, the chair of our RAC, I saw him, I guess it was last night or the night before, and I passed on to him all the positive comments from the different board members about RAC performance, et cetera. And then I'm going to pass on to Lynn and to Sandy, Brigida, all of the staff on the covenant issues. Thanks for being very flexible, working very hard, getting things done. I have got contractors call me. The last couple of weeks, I've had a contractor call me, a resident call me, somebody else call me about the covenant process and alterations, et cetera. I explained to them, get in contact with, et cetera. And I told them we should be able to take care of you, no problem. And I got feedback from them that everything worked very, very well. So for all the people involved in all of that, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 12. Thank you.
Excellent.
And David Smith is here too. David, thank you.
Oh, yes, yes, from the rack. Yes. Sorry, David.
Okay.
He's smiling.
Sandy?
He gave a thumbs up. He's been helpful to me, really. Nothing that I haven't said.
Okay. Larry? You may have to unmute.
Oh, okay. He didn't ask me to. I've asked him a few times.
Okay. Nothing. Oh, he's shaking his head. Okay. Bog?
Yeah.
He is talking, but
Oh, wait. Are you? I can't get him to. I can't get him unmuted.
Oh,
I'm asking. I've been doing it for a while. I don't know.
Oh, is that a nothing?
Can you hear me?
Oh.
No. Larry. It looks like Larry's trying to say something, but we can't get him unmuted.
It was like me earlier tonight.
Sandy, try the unmute again.
I have been.
can't we unmute ourselves?
Yeah, we should be
If
able
you
to.
asked, and I'm asking, but I don't, like tonight, my microphone wasn't working. I had to call in. So I don't know if it's his microphone or, because we've been asking periodically.
Oh, because I can unmute myself or mute myself.
If you mute yourself, I don't think you can unmute if I don't let you. Let's see.
Let me try.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for me for some reason, but yeah, I have nothing. But,
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad we got it working at least. All right, Bog.
right on time.
Yeah, I've just small update on Fairwell and Stevens Forest roundabout. About 2 weeks ago, I discovered that the county has placed a video camera, and they took it away about 2 or 3 days ago. And Jonathan knows about it. He confirmed that it was the county that placed the camera. So I hope that they have a report on the traffic pattern on this roundabout. So that might help us resolve the continuing issues. And on a lighter note, the Major League Baseball started, and our team didn't do as well as I had expected. The champions. Yeah.
Well, it's a short season. You got 56 days.
Mixed beginning, but we have a long way to go.
But the Orioles are doing
What do you? Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going
wait
to say,
a minute.
what do you mean?
What
Our team took 2 out of 3 in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, what more do you want? Last year
Yeah,
we won 2 out of 3 from Boston.
Yeah, but
This
we
year-
lost yesterday. I think mixed beginning.
That's your team. My team, Orioles,
Cute.
won.
My team is national.
I'll have to bring
World
my
champion.
D-backs prop next time.
Which teams?
Who is that?
Washington.
Believe it.
Nationals, the world
Well, I'm a
champion.
Red Sox fan, so I'll bring the Red Sox into this.
Oh
And I will bring
no.
about 100 Diamondbacks bobbleheads, because that's about how many we have in our house.
I root for the Red Sox when they're playing the Yankees.
Oh,
Woohoo!
yeah.
I root for a rain out.
I root
All right.
that my son doesn't get COVID in Arizona for the D-backs.
Paul.
Nothing.
Okay, Rebecca.
Nothing. I think the MLB season is just going to be which team stays healthiest the longest. Not
Yes.
really. That's
Last man
Pretty good
standing.
They don't even have a real schedule. I just saw an alert today that, like, instead of playing the Marlins, the Orioles are going to play the Yankees the middle of this week. Like, they just picked another team. And, oh, yeah, now you two will play.
No, Jonathan, the Marlins had the virus. Like they're up to 17 people with the virus.
Oh, I know, but like normally in a normal season, a game gets postponed, you make it up. Now they're just like subbing in another opponent so they can keep playing.
Running out of time to make it up.
Actually, we missed 3 games with the Marlins. I think Marlins should just give us those 3 games.
I do too.
Yeah.
Forfeit.
They were not social distancing enough.
Yeah, not our fault, right.
Hey, all I know is it's late July. The Orioles are in first place with a .667 winning percentage, and that's all I'm going to say. Ginny, on to you.
Well, I hate to say this, but I think there are 2 other teams in first place too, but that's okay. We're going to win tomorrow against the Yankees. Okay, and you bet on that one. No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right. I think that's everyone then, and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Have a good
everybody.
evening.
Bye, everybody.